I have zero empathy. All emotions, for me, must be quantified. When my college girlfriend had cramps, I sent her a spreadsheet of painkiller ingredients and a research paper on endorphins. When my best friend's startup failed and he was sobbing, I calculated his debt-to-asset ratio and outlined the optimal bankruptcy strategy to minimize his losses. Gradually, people stopped telling me their problems. My world is composed of data and logic. It's terrifyingly rational, until my family arranged my marriage. My fiancée was a sentimental, artsy type, prone to melancholy. And she had a childhood best friend who babied her, treating her like his own daughter. At a dinner with the three of us, this friend, Leo, looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. Julian, Clara has always been a crier. I can always make her smile in 3 seconds flat. From now on, when she cries, it's on you to handle it. Expressionless, I looked at Clara Hayes, who was already on the verge of tears. Cry once, and I'll log it. During the term of our marriage, if the count exceeds 365, we will proceed directly to the liquidation of assets. 1. A tear immediately rolled down Clara's cheek. Across from her, Leo shot to his feet, glaring at me. Julian Sterling, do you even have a heart? Are you threatening Clara? I glanced at my watch. From a moment, I finished stating the rule to the fall of her first hair for 0.7 seconds. Her emotional response time is 12% faster than the average person's. I took out my phone, opened the Notes app, and began typing. Clara Hayes, crying incident number 1. Cause, offended by stated rule. Incident logged. Clara began to sob harder, her shoulders shaking. Leo pulled her into a hug. Don't cry, Clara. I'm here. This cold-blooded monster doesn't deserve you. He patted her back gently, shooting a defiant look at me. See, Julian? I'm the one who really gets her. She needs comfort right now, not your cold, hard numbers. I nodded in agreement. Observationally, your comforting actions have failed to cease her crying within a 7-second window. Conclusion: your method is inefficient. Furthermore, I put down my phone, my gaze landing on his hand on her back. According to the prenuptial agreement, any non-family member initiating physical contact with my legal wife beyond a specified limit will be considered a potential threat to our marriage. Remove your hand. Leo froze. Clara and I grew up together. What's wrong with the hug? Why does your mind have to be so disgusting? Clara also looked up from his embrace, defending him with reddened eyes. Julian, you've gone too far. Leo was just comforting me. You're just an unfeeling robot. I looked at her tear-streaked face and picked up my phone again. Crying incident number 2. Cause, defending her childhood friend. Crying duration has now exceeded 3 minutes. Intensity has increased. Given that this incident was directly triggered by Leo's inappropriate physical contact, culpability is assigned to Leo, but the incident is logged under your name. Clara's crying stopped abruptly. She stared at me in disbelief. You're counting this one, too? Rules must be clear to be effectively enforced, I replied calmly. Every incident, regardless of the cause, will be recorded. This is to ensure the integrity and impartiality of the data. Leo was trembling with rage. Clara, ignore him. He's a lunatic. Let's go. We don't have to eat this dinner. He pulled Clara up, ready to leave. I spoke. Tonight's dinner costs $350 per person. As agreed, I'm covering the bill. However, leaving mid-meal constitutes a unilateral breach of our dinner arrangement, requiring you to pay the full bill plus a 150% default penalty. In total, you would owe $1,050. Leo stopped in his tracks. He turned back, staring daggers at me. You're unbelievable. He pulled Clara back to her seat, fuming. Clara wouldn't look at me, but tears continued to fall silently down her cheeks. I updated my note on my phone. Correction, incident number 2 is ongoing, has transitioned to silent mode. Heart rate and respiratory frequency can still be used as metrics for validation in this mode. Interesting. This was the first time I had ever developed such a strong observational interest in a person's emotional fluctuations. 2. The house my family prepared for Clara and me was a sprawling estate in Greenwich. The day we moved in, Leo followed in his car. The excuse was that he was helping Clara with her luggage, worried she'd get tired. He acted like the man of the house, directing the movers. Be careful with that box. It's full of her favorite first edition books. That vase goes by the window. Clara says it needs sunlight to look its best. Clara followed him around, a look of complete dependence on her face. I opened my laptop and began calibrating the home's smart security system. Cameras, microphones, infrared sensors. Every corner was under my data surveillance. After moving a framed painting, Leo walked over to me. Julian, you're just going to sit there? Clara is running around doing everything. Have you no shame? I didn't look up from my screen. I paid the moving company $1,800 for their services, which includes the transport and placement of all items in designated locations. Your actions constitute redundant labor and generate no additional value. As for Clara, I continued, in the last 15 minutes, she has moved a total of 7 pounds of items, burning approximately 11.4 calories. Her level of physical exertion is well below the daily standard for an adult female. Leo was speechless. Just then, Clara walked over, holding an old picture frame. Inside was a photo of her and Leo as kids. She wanted to place it on the media console, the most prominent spot in the living room. Julian, this. Before she could finish, Leo cut in. Clara, you don't have to ask him. This is your home. You can put it wherever you want. He reached out to place it on the console. I finally looked up. I've already reserved that space for the shared family digital photo frame. Its ownership is designated to us as a married couple. Displaying a photo of a single individual or a non-family member does not align with the definition of family sharing. Clara's eyes instantly reddened. It's just a picture of me and Leo when we were kids. It's a testament to our friendship. Leo immediately jumped in. Exactly. You're being completely unreasonable. I looked into Clara's eyes and started the timer on my phone. Are you going to cry over this? Think carefully. This will be your third logged incident. Clara bit her lip, forcing the tears back. But next to her, Leo's hand accidentally slipped. The frame fell to the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. The smiling faces of the 2 children in the photo were now split by a crack. Oh no, Leo exclaimed dramatically. Clara, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Looking at the broken frame, Clara could no longer hold back. The dam broke. She let out a soul-crushing wail. While offering insincere apologies, Leo shot me a triumphant look. I recorded the event on my phone, my expression unchanged. Crying incident number 3. Cause, sentimental item damaged. Trigger, Leo Vance. Crying intensity, high. Estimated duration, over 5 minutes. After logging the entry, I retrieved a broom and dustpan from the utility closet. Ignoring the 2 of them clinging to each other and sobbing, I walked straight to the shattered glass and picked up the cracked photograph. Then, right in front of them, I dropped it into the trash can. Clara's crying came to a screeching halt. Julian, what are you doing? I spoke calmly. The item is damaged and has lost its original function. Disposal is the most efficient solution. Also, I held up my phone, since this event was deliberately orchestrated by Leo and malicious in nature. It will be counted as 2 incidents. 3. The next day was Saturday. I was woken by the doorbell. On the security monitor, I saw my parents and Clara's parents. All 4 of them looked grim. I opened the door. The second my mother-in-law saw me, she started in. Julian, we entrusted Clara to you, for you to take care of her. How could you do this to her? Throwing away her most precious possession and making her cry all night. Clara hid behind her, her eyes red and swollen like a rabbit's. Leo was with them, of course. I stepped aside. Come in and talk. Once everyone was seated, I pulled up the security footage from the previous day. The high-definition video and clear audio replayed the entire sequence of how Leo's hand slipped and how I handled the aftermath. Based on video analysis, the motion sequence of Mr. Vance deviates from the standard model for an accidental slip by 89.6%. Conclusion: it was intentional. As for disposing of the photo, discarding a damaged item is in accordance with property law. I looked at Clara's parents. You gave your daughter to this family in marriage, and the Sterlings have accepted her with the utmost sincerity. But that does not mean her past takes precedence over our future. This home belongs to a Sterling and a Hayes, not a Vance. My father, a man who also worships at the altar of rules and efficiency, spoke up. Our families are joined now, and Julian has a point, he said, addressing Clara's father. The kids are married. They need to have their own life. This young man, Leo, needs to learn about boundaries. Clara's father looked furious, but with the video evidence, he had nothing to say. Her mother, however, wouldn't let it go. Even if Leo was in the wrong, you can't provoke Clara like that. She's been sensitive her whole life, and you're holding this crying count over her head? You're bullying her. I turned to Clara. Marriage is a contract. Emotions, too, require management. Uncontrolled crying is a liability. It continuously depreciates the value of the marriage. My rule isn't meant to restrict her, but to teach her how to manage her liabilities. Clara finally exploded. Value. Assets. That's all you talk about. Julian, are there any words in your vocabulary besides those cold, empty ones? Leo understands me 1,000,000 times better than you ever will. He knows why I'm crying. He stays with me. He comforts me. And you? You just keep score. You just use money to threaten me. She grew more agitated as she spoke, tears welling up again. I watch her coolly and tap my phone. Incident number 4. Smack. My father-in-law slammed his hand on the table and stood up. That's enough. Julian Sterling, do you think you could just walk all over the Hayes family? To hell with this marriage. Clara, we're going home. A flash of pure joy crossed Leo's face as he rushed to help Clara up. Your parents are right, Clara. Let's go. Leave this monster. I didn't stop them. Just as my own father frowned, about to intervene and smooth things over, I spoke first. Fina, terminating the marriage constitutes a unilateral breach of contract. According to the supplemental business agreement signed by our two families, the Hayes Corporation would be required to compensate Sterling Industries for all losses incurred due to the interruption of our joint ventures. By my preliminary calculations, that comes to roughly $3 billion. The entire living room fell silent. Clara's parents were pale as ghosts. $3 billion. My father-in-law's voice trembled. What $3 billion? I turned my laptop toward him. On the screen was a 50-page contract, accompanied by dense data models. In preparation for this union, Sterling Industries preemptively launched 3 upstream and downstream projects tied to Hayes Corp's core business, investing significant capital. These projects are deeply integrated with our partnership. If the marriage is dissolved, the foundation for our collaboration ceases to exist, and the projects will collapse. $3 billion is the minimum compensation figure I've calculated based on current investment, projected loss of earnings, and market volatility risk. I clicked the mouse, and a bright red loss projection curve appeared on the screen. If you pull out now, Hayes Corporation stock value will evaporate by at least 40% within 3 trading days. My father-in-law collapsed onto the sofa. My mother-in-law was stunned. You set us up. This is a risk assessment, I corrected her. For any partnership, I model all possible risks and develop contingency plans in advance, including marital failure. Leo, standing off to the side, was frantic. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, don't let him scare you. This is extortion. He's threatening you. I ignored him, my eyes fixed on Clara. Do you still wish to dissolve the marriage? All the color drained from her face. She looked at me, then at her devastated parents. Even she could understand what a number like $3 billion meant. She shook her head violently, tears now streaming down her face. No, I don't. I won't dissolve it. I was wrong. Please don't do this to my parents, she begged, sobbing. It was the most broken I had ever seen her. I nodded and picked up my phone. Incident number 5. Log. Crying incident triggered by coercion related to family financial interests. Leo finally snapped. He lunged forward and grabbed my collar, his eyes bloodshot. Julian Sterling. Are you even ING human? What is she to you? A bargaining chip in a deal. You see her in this much pain, and you feel nothing. My father yelled, Leo, let go of him. But I raised a hand to stop my father. I let him hold me, meeting his furious gaze with calm. First, take your hands off me. This suit is expensive. Second, she is my legal wife first, and your childhood friend second. You need to recognize that fact. Third, and most importantly, I said, enunciating each word clearly, whether I feel anything is irrelevant. What is relevant is that from this day forward, every time she is in pain, I will ensure that pain is traced back to its source. And I will make that source pay tenfold. My gaze traveled over Leo's shoulder, landing on Clara's pale face. Listen to me, Clara. Every tear you shed for him, I will count as a debt, and I will personally collect that debt from him. You cry once, I take something he values. I'll continue until he has nothing left. 5. Leo's body went rigid. He looked at me in disbelief. On what grounds? I pushed his hands away and straightened my collar. You're welcome to find out. I pulled up a file on my phone and sent it to my assistant. The file was titled Leo Vance, Background and Asset Evaluation. Leo Vance, 28 years old, founder and sole proprietor of Luna Creative, a small studio providing copy and design services for boutique brands. Your largest client, accounting for 73% of your annual revenue, is the Gilded Compass Hotel Group. I looked up, meeting his increasingly pale face. As it happens, the owner of the Gilded Compass was my classmate in college. I just sent him a message, recommending another design firm that offers a better value proposition. Leo's phone rang. His hands trembled as he answered. A single sentence from the other end was all it took. He looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Mr. Wallace, why? I thought we had a great working relationship. No reason? You're just terminating the contract. Mr. Wallace. Sir. The line went dead. Leo stood there, clutching his phone, and stared at me in a daze. It was you. I closed my laptop. This is the first payment. Clara used up her 5th crying incident because of your recklessness. And you have paid the first price for your actions. Perfectly balanced. Clara had stopped crying. She was in shock, watching the scene unfold. Her parents didn't dare breathe a word. I walked over to Clara. Now, answer a question for me. Making you cry, or making him lose everything? Which of those two would cause you more distress? Tears still clung to her eyelashes, but she didn't dare let them fall. I leaned in, close to her ear, and said in a voice only she could hear, You see, tears can be controlled, as long as the price is high enough. Turning to the room, I announced, This matter is concluded for today. I'll see you all out. The whole drama ended in my complete victory. After everyone had gone, the house was quiet, with just me and Clara. She remained on the sofa like a statue. Before he left, Leo had given me a look of such venomous hatred, as if he wanted to tear me apart with his bare hands. It didn't bother me. To a person for whom logic is supreme, the emotions of a loser are the most worthless data imaginable. I poured myself a glass of water and started going through the work emails that had piled up. After a long time, Clara finally moved. She walked over to me, her voice hoarse. Why did you do that? I didn't look up. I told you I would make the source of the pain pay the price. But that's Leo. He's my best friend. The moment he chose to interfere in our marriage, he stopped being your friend. I finally looked at her. Clara, my world is very simple. It's divided into mine and other. You are now mine. He is other. Any other that attempt to damage what is mine will be eliminated. She recoiled as if struck by my logic. You're a monster. I nodded. If adhering to rules and logic makes me a monster, then I am one. And I will ensure you get used to living with one. That night, Clara didn't cry again. She locked herself in her room, silent. I knew that the first phase of her education was complete. Next was phase 2, the elimination of external interference. 6. Having lost his biggest client, Leo's studio was in financial crisis. But he didn't come to me. He targeted Clara instead. For the next few days, her phone rang nonstop. After every call, she looked paler than before. I didn't listen in on her calls. But the network monitoring system in my house reported all abnormal data traffic to me. Leo was sending her high-frequency messages. The content was predictable, pleading poverty, playing the victim, and accusing me of tyranny. He was exploiting Clara's guilt. Sure enough, at dinner that night, Clara made a request. Julian, can you please get the Gilded Compass to give Leo his contract back? He's about to go under. I sliced into the steak on my plate. No, why not? It would just take a single phone call. There are 2 reasons. I put down my silverware and dabbed my mouth with a napkin. First, business is built on integrity. Having recommended a new firm, I cannot go back on my word. It would damage my personal credibility, and the opportunity cost is too high. Second, the punishment is not yet complete. The price he has paid is not yet commensurate with the cost of your tears and my losses. Clara's breathing quickened. What do you want? Do you want to drive him to his death? Drive him to his death is an emotionally exaggerated expression. I analyzed coolly. According to my assessment, Given the current scale of his studio and his debt load, even after filing for bankruptcy and liquidating, he will still have a net positive personal worth. It will be sufficient to maintain a normal standard of living. I am merely removing a variable that consistently generates risk. I am not trying to kill him. A variable? Risk? Clara's voice rose. Leo is a living, breathing person. He's not a line of code in your program. In my world, all things can be quantified as data, including people. I looked at her furious face and added calmly, especially a person who is continuously harassing my wife and attempting to sabotage our marriage. My words left Clara speechless. She knew Leo had been contacting her, and she knew it was wrong. She was silent for a long time, then tried a different approach. Fina, so you won't help him. Can I use my own money to help him then? My dowry, the money my parents gave me, I cut her off. No, why not? It's my money. Prenuptial agreement, Article 17, Section 3, I recited from memory. During the term of the marriage, any expenditure of personal assets by either party exceeding $50,000 for non-household related expenses requires the consent of the other party. I have the right of immediate veto, especially when the funds are directed toward a third party already identified as a potential threat. Clara completely broke down. Julian, what are you trying to do to me? She stood up, tears swimming in her eyes. You imprison me. You monitor me. And now you're controlling my money. Are you trying to drive me insane? I watched her, on the verge of tears, without any emotional reaction. This is incident number 6. As per our agreement, Leo must now pay the second price for your tears. With that, I made a phone call. Hello, Mr. Davies? It's Julian Sterling. I need you to send a cease and desist letter to Leo Vance, proprietor of Luna Creative, and file a suit against him for unfair business practices. The blood drained from Clara's face. 7. The lawsuit was devastatingly effective. Leo's studio was already on the brink. Now, saddled with a legal battle, it was toast. I also had my assistant discreetly leak information about a past incident where he had plagiarized the work of a well-known designer. His reputation and his business imploded overnight. This time, Leo learned his lesson. He stopped harassing Clara. Instead, he went through her mother to arrange a meeting with me. We met at a coffee shop. He looked haggard, with several days' worth of stubble and dark circles under his eyes. Mr. Sterling, he didn't even dare call me Julian anymore. I give up. I'm begging you, just let me go. My studio is gone, and I had to sell my condo to pay off my debts. I have nothing left. I stir my coffee, saying nothing. He was gambling that I would show mercy now that he was sufficiently pathetic. Unfortunately, mercy is not a function I possess. Your current situation is the inevitable result of a series of poor decisions, I stated as fact. Challenging my marriage was a strategic error. Harassing my wife was a strategic error. Believing that tears and moral blackmail could solve your problems was your greatest strategic error. Color rose and fell in Leo's face. I know I was wrong. Just drop the lawsuit and stop coming after me. I swear, I'll leave the city immediately. I'll never appear in front of you or Clara again. It sounded like a sincere proposal, but I detected a flaw in his logic. Leave? I asked. And then what? I'll go to another city, start over. I'm asking, with what will you start over? Leo froze. I smiled. It might have been the first time I had ever smiled at an outsider. The sight of it made Leo's pupils constrict. You liquidated your studio, but you've forgotten something. To expand your business, you took out a loan, using your parents' home as collateral. The bank's collection notice should be arriving any day now. Leo's body jerked as if he'd been electrocuted. How could you know that? I told you. In my world, everything is data. All of your assets, liabilities, social connections, and credit history are, to me, public information. I leaned back in my chair, watching his expression crumble into utter despair, and felt a novel sense of pleasure. It wasn't the thrill of revenge. It was the deep satisfaction of a perfectly executed calculation achieving its predicted result. Julian, you're a devil. He hissed. Do you have to be so ruthless? That's my parents' only home. That is not my problem, I said, taking a sip of coffee. That was a time bomb you planted yourself, out of vanity and ambition. All I did was press the detonator for you. I stood up to leave. I forgot to mention, as the seventh punishment for your attempt to continue exploiting Clara's kindness, I've acquired the asset management firm that holds the mortgage on your parents' house. In other words, as of today, I am your creditor. Leo slumped in his chair, his face the color of ash. I knew, then, that this variable was now completely under my control. 8. Leo Vance vanished. I didn't bother to find out where he went. A data point that has lost its value is no longer worth any of my computational resources. The house grew quiet. Clara stopped crying, too. She spent her days painting, reading, and writing poetry that I couldn't understand. We lived under the same roof, but it was as if we existed in two different dimensions. I knew this was not normal. In my marriage model, cold silence and zero communication were negative indicators just as dangerous as overt conflict. I had to correct the model. That evening, I walked into her art studio. She was staring blankly at a canvas. The painting was of a girl entangled in countless lines of code and data symbols. There was no light in the girl's eyes. "Have you named this piece?" I asked. She jumped, startled. Seeing it was me, a flicker of wariness crossed her face. "Not yet. I would suggest The Prisoner." Her hand tightened around her paintbrush, her body tensing. "You must be so proud of yourself, Julian. You've trampled over everyone, turned my entire world upside down. Are you satisfied now?" I shook my head. "No. My objective is to build a stable, efficient, and sustainable marital model. The current model still has significant defects." He pointed at her painting. "You are the defect. Your emotional state has stabilized, but your intrinsic value output is zero. For the model as a whole, this represents a waste of resources." She laughed, a bitter, angry sound. "Value output? Waste of resources? Is that all I am to you? A component in your model?" "You are the core component," I corrected. She laughed even harder, tears of mirth and anger springing to her eyes. But she wiped them away quickly, as if remembering the long obsolete rule. "You will never understand, Julian. You destroyed my only support system, my only emotional anchor. You turned me into an empty shell, and now you're blaming me for having no value?" I walked over to her, looking directly into her eyes. "I destroyed a virus that was parasitizing your emotional ecosystem. Leo's presence created a malignant dependency in your system, preventing it from functioning independently. What I performed was a simple antivirus scan and a system reboot. Now, I need to install a new emotional driver." She looked at me as if I'd announced I was God. "An emotional driver? Who do you think you are?" "Not God," I said, pulling a card from my pocket and placing it on her desk. "Your husband." It was a black, metal card. There was no bank logo, only a unique, embossed symbol. "What is this?" she asked. "A membership card for a private arts foundation. It has a $5 million line of credit, designated for acquiring works from and funding promising young artists. From now on, you are the sole director and decision-maker of this foundation." Clara was stunned. What do you mean? You always said Leo understood you 1,000,000 times better than I did. Now, I'm giving you an opportunity. Go and find 100 people who understand art better than Leo, who are more talented than he ever was. Use my money to build a support system of your own. This time, your anchor won't be one person. It will be an artistic empire built by your own hands. 9. Clara took the card. At first, I believe she was motivated by a desire for revenge. She began attending every art exhibit, gallery opening, and artist colony she could find. She flew to Paris to study the collections at the Louvre. She traveled to North Carolina to learn from master ceramicists. She single-handedly funded a failing independent gallery, using it to stage a series of experimental exhibitions. I never asked her where the money went or who she met. I only looked at the financial statements. Month 1, the foundation lost $300,000. Month 2, a loss of $500,000. Month 3, a loss of $1 million. My assistant warned me more than once that Clara's methods were devoid of business logic, that she was just burning cash. "Mr. Sterling, it's possible Mrs. Sterling is just engaging in retaliatory spending," he advised. "Many of these investments lack even the most basic due diligence." But as I looked at the cash flow statements, I saw something different. "No," I said. "She's learning. She got scammed a few times, taken in by artists, with more style than substance. But she also discovered several genuinely talented young people on the verge of giving up. She started learning how to read a balance sheet, how to assess project risk, how to negotiate a contract. She was no longer the sentimental girl who cried at the drop of a hat and pinned all her hopes on someone else. A new light had appeared in her eyes. It was a light I had never seen in her, or anyone before. It was the light of creation and control. 6 months later, the foundation turned its first profit. A young sculptor she had championed won a major international award, and the value of his work skyrocketed 50-fold. That night, she came into my study for the first time of her own volition. She was wearing a sharp, tailored suit, her hair pulled back, a confident smile on her face. "Julian, thank you." It was the first time she had ever said those words to me with genuine peace. "It's unnecessary." "This was a transactional exchange," I replied. "The foundation's success has enhanced the Sterling brand's value in the cultural sector. It was a sound investment." She smiled. "You always do that, but I know that's not what you really mean." She placed a folder on my desk. "This is the foundation's 5-year strategic plan, and—" She paused, pulling something from behind her back. It was a small, clay figurine. It was wearing a suit and glasses, and its face was completely blank. In its hand, it held a tiny calculator. "I made it," she said a little shyly. "I burned a few trying to get it right. This was the best one. It's for you." I looked at the figurine. It was uniquely ugly. Data could not quantify its value, but I knew it was the most precious gift I had ever received. I took it and placed it next to my computer monitor. "Why me?" Clara asked suddenly. "What do you mean? Why did you choose me?" She clarified, her gaze steady. "With your background, you could have married anyone. Someone more suitable, from a family that offered a better strategic advantage. Why me? The sentimental, artsy girl who you saw as completely useless?" It was a question I had never considered. My brain began to process at high speed, attempting to retrieve the optimal answer from my database. But I failed, because the answer wasn't in the data. 10. I was silent for a long time. So long that Clara probably thought I wasn't going to answer. Because I finally said, "My doctor told me I needed an irrational variable to stimulate my limbic system." Clara stared at me, confused. "Your doctor? Are you sick?" I opened a drawer, took out a medical file, and handed it to her. "Emotional cognitive disorder. In layman's terms, I don't feel emotions. I only comprehend them. Like a colorblind person who knows the wavelength of red is between 620 and 750 nanometers, but can never experience the feeling of warmth it evokes." Clara looked at the diagnosis, her hand trembling slightly. She was replaying all my past actions in her mind, quantifying tears, calculating losses, acting like a cold, unfeeling machine. She realized it wasn't a personality flaw. It was a clinical condition. "All of my behavior is based on simulation," I continued, "simulating the appropriate response of a neurotypical person." I gave my ex-girlfriend a research paper because I believed knowledge was a better solution to her problem than comfort. I helped my friend with bankruptcy calculations because I believed minimizing his financial loss was more practical than sympathy. I failed every time. My world was a fortress built of data and logic. Until you. I looked at her. "You were so noisy, Clara. Your tears, your sentimentality, your completely illogical emotional fluctuations. To my system, you were incomprehensible, corrupted code. This corrupted code launched a sustained attack on my silent, orderly world. It was a problem, and I had to solve it. Restricting your crying was an attempt to collect data. Neutralizing Leo was to eliminate an interfering variable. Giving you the foundation was an attempt to reconstruct your behavioral patterns. Everything I did was for a single purpose: to decrypt you, to recompile you into a program I could finally understand." Clara's eyes reddened. But this time, it wasn't from sadness or hurt. "So, did you succeed?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. I shook my head. "No, I failed." I picked up the ugly little clay figurine from my desk. "I couldn't recompile you to fit my program." "On the contrary," I looked into her eyes, "you managed to corrupt a part of my source code. For example, right now, my heart rate is 102 beats per minute. My cortisol levels are abnormally elevated, but I can find no logical cause for this physiological response. My doctor suggests that my limbic system, under your sustained stimulation, may have been activated. In layman's terms, I paused, searching for the new, unfamiliar vocabulary to describe the sensation. I think I'm starting to like you. The tears finally fell from Clara's eyes. But this time, I didn't reach for my phone to log them. Instead, I awkwardly, gently pulled her into a hug. Don't cry, I said. This time, I don't want to keep score. For the first time, my world contained a piece of data that logic couldn't explain. Perhaps this is what people called emotion. And as for that childhood friend who babied her like a daughter, he was just the first bug I cleared while trying to decrypt this sweet, corrupted code.